On Tech News Today, France is thinking about banning public Wi-Fi. Plus, YouTube personalities are evolving a YouTube-specific way of talking. And Chinese researchers invent a mind-controlled car. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, December 7th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit BraintreePayments.com/TNT. And by Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping in time for the holidays when you go to ring.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. My name is Mike Elgan, and our co-anchor today is CNET.com editor-in-chief Lindsey Turrentine calling in. Lindsey, why are you on the phone today?
I am on the phone because our internet went down. We were remodeling here in the CNET offices, and something happened. Some cord got cut. I don't know, but I'm on my cell phone.
Yeah, talk about cord cutting. Sometimes it's not always a good thing. All right, well, well, why don't we jump right into the news? We have two awesome guests today to talk to. And let's start with our first story. The French newspaper Le Monde reports that French police and security forces intend to propose the nationwide banning of public Wi-Fi, and also banning the anonymizing Toor network. Amar Toor is a reporter for The Verge and joins us now. Welcome to the show, Amar.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Now, what the heck would banning public Wi-Fi accomplish?
Well, it's important to note that the proposal that the security forces laid out would only apply to state of emergencies, which France is, of course, currently in following the attacks on Paris, across Paris. But the justification that they gave is basically that during these states of emergency, it's a lot easier for terrorists or suspected terrorists to communicate using public Wi-Fi, and also more difficult for them to identify them. So that's basically the impetus, again, a security-based impetus, but it's not clear whether any of these will actually be passed. These are still very much drafts, and the Interior Ministry has yet to finalize them.
So what would it look like if these were to get passed? What steps do these proposals have to go through to reach that point? Seems pretty early, right? We've got the security forces proposing something. So that's kind of like the FBI saying, hey, Congress, please pass the following law. Would that take a while?
Yeah, I think it likely would. Although, I mean, again, these two proposals, specifically the Wi-Fi one and the Toor ban, are just two among many that they're looking to implement. They're also looking to make it easier for them to conduct search and seizures without a warrant, ask for ID at certain checkpoints. So it's really part of a broader package that would have to be presumably passed by Parliament because it would likely involve some constitutional changes. And according to Le Monde, that this particular set of measures could be proposed as early, or could be presented as early as January.
Now, as part of this proposal, this forthcoming proposal, they're talking about a requirement for encrypted VoIP providers to give a backdoor to law enforcement. Is that correct? And if so, is that considered a controversial idea in France?
Well, I'm not sure how controversial that specific proposal is, but that is basically the idea. And again, this is something that we've seen both in the U.S. and the U.K. Following the Paris attacks, and even before this. Intelligence services basically telling tech companies, "Look, we need a way to read these messages," and tech companies largely pushing back, and of course, privacy advocates and free speech advocates. But within France, it's actually kind of interesting. There's generally broad support for sacrificing civil liberties in the name of greater security. There was a poll that was done by the Figaro just, I think, a week after the attacks. So again, the attacks are very fresh in everyone's memory. But something like 84% of respondents said they would be willing to sacrifice some sort of civil liberties in exchange for security. So there doesn't seem to be a huge debate, at least publicly or in the media yet, over, in the same way that, say, after 9/11, the Patriot Act was kind of rushed through. And it seems that France is very much going through the same sort of steps.
So this particular news has only been out for a few hours. Has there been much reaction to this information specifically? I know you said that there seems to be a mood in France that is leaning a little bit more right, a little bit less, a little bit more willing to sacrifice liberty for safety, but wondering whether or not when the rubber hits the road, people are having a negative reaction, or what has been the online reaction to this so far in France?
Well, certainly among the connected kind of French tech blog community, there's been a lot of backlash. There are certain organizations, kind of French equivalents of Electronic Frontier Foundation, those kinds of organizations who are upset about this. But this is part of a longer narrative here in terms of how the French government, really dating back to the Charlie Hebdo attacks, has dramatically expanded their surveillance powers, expanded the government's ability to unilaterally shut down websites that they claim incite terrorism with very little oversight or judicial checks. Again, this is just kind of an ongoing issue here. But generally, I don't see a ton of pushback. But maybe 2 months, 3 months down the line, once the state of emergency, if it ever ends, now they're talking about extending it possibly to 6 months or even longer. I think then we may begin to see more of a real substantive debate around these issues.
Amar, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask for your prediction about whether any of this stuff is going to make it into French law.
My bet at the moment would be that at least some of it would. Just considering, 2 weeks ago, I believe, or 3 weeks ago, directly after the attacks, the French Parliament unanimously or nearly unanimously approved an extension of the state of emergency, which gives French intelligence forces and security forces much broader power to conduct house arrests, seizures, copy personal data. And they also, with the same sense of almost near unanimity, almost approve laws that would give them basically free reign over the internet to shut down certain websites. So given the trends that we've seen over the past few weeks and how the legislature has reacted, and it's particularly how President François Hollande has really taken a very aggressive stance towards this, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this makes it into French law.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about this because, of course, this stuff is just for states of emergency. But if you enable a state of emergency every time there's an attack or a fear of an attack or when everybody's concerned about an attack, then you may have a state of emergency that's never lifted in the same way that in the United States, after having declared war on terrorism, there's no end to that war. If it's really a war, then it can't end. Terrorism is a tactic, and it will go on forever and ever. So that's a big, big concern, I think, for everybody who cares about liberty in France. Amar Toor is at theverge.com and on Twitter at Amar2. That's AMARTOO. Amar, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Right, bye-bye. More news coming right up, but first I want to talk about Braintree. Braintree is the way to have code for mobile payments. If you're going to sell something on an app or on a website, you don't want to do it the hard way. You want to do it the easy way and the way that's going to satisfy and thrill your customers. And of course, they're not customers if they don't buy anything from you. And that's one of the biggest problems out there on the internet is a phenomenon called mobile cart abandonment. What that means is that people want to come and buy your product or service. And because the payments process is such a pain, because it's confusing, because it's difficult, because it confronts people with things they either can't do or don't want to do or don't have the time to do, they wander away. And you lose all those customers. It's a terrible problem, and Braintree solves that problem by making the payments process so pleasant, so easy, so quick, and so flexible that nobody will abandon your card. They'll be able to just go all the way through and get what they want. You get what you want, which is a new customer. And how do they do this? Well, they do it in a whole bunch of ways. For starters, they enable you to add the code very quickly. Half an hour, 10 minutes, whatever it is, depending on your skill level or whatever it is you're actually doing. But it never takes a whole lot of time. And then once it's implemented, you can accept Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards. You can even accept Bitcoin. So there are no barriers when people want to pay for your service. It's in 130 languages. There's just nothing that's going to stop people from buying your product or service. And we have a clip from the general manager for Braintree Mobile about the buyable pins program they helped develop with Pinterest. Let's check it out.
The holy grail for Pinterest was to figure out a way to integrate a commerce experience into the core Pinterest product discovery experience. And so buyable pins is the ability for Pinterest users to actually buy products that they like directly through the Pinterest interface, right? So instead of having to click away to a merchant's checkout page, that buying experience now is squarely within the Pinterest UI. And so they've got some really great retailers that have signed up for this, Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, among others. And so we've been working with Pinterest for the last several months to help power this experience.
All right, well, Braintree gives you a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types that your customers might want, single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection, customer service, and super fast payouts. Check it out for yourself. Go to BraintreePayments.com/TNT. And we thank Braintree for their support of Tech News Today. Writing for The Atlantic, Julie Beck talks about an emerging YouTube-specific way of speaking that many of the top YouTube personalities have started affecting. After noticing the trend, she interviewed American University linguistics professor Naomi Barron to find out what's going on. Julie Beck joins us now. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Now, many of the characteristics of YouTube talk revolve around a hyper-emphasis on vowels. Can you talk about what Barron told you about vowel emphasis on YouTube?
Yeah, so I am not a linguist at all, so I had to, call one up and see what was actually happening. And it is a lot of strategies just to emphasize words, generally speaking. Some of that does involve vowels, either extending vowels out or a lot of times the vowels are not pronounced when we say certain words. There's a sort of general vowel that's a neutral vowel called a schwa, and it just kind of sounds like And you say that a lot in words where you're not putting any emphasis on the vowels. And so you can also choose to emphasize ones that you normally don't. The example she gave was exactly. So when I just said exactly, you can't really hear the E that well. But if you say exactly, then you can hear it. And so people will do that as well. You may also insert a vowel in between a couple of consonants just to also emphasize the word. I think the example was trapping. So you would say tur-rapping. But again, I'm sort of overdoing it right now just so you can hear what I'm talking about. It's a lot more subtle sometimes in the videos.
So Julie, this is so fascinating. I love this kind of linguistics nerdiness. And is there anything else? There are the overemphasized vowels or emphasized vowels anyway. We don't want to judge. But are there any other characteristics of YouTube talk?
Yeah, so there's also, it's consonants too. People will stretch out the consonants much in the way that they do the vowels, particularly when they're at the beginning of a word. So you might say like fascinating instead of fascinating. And again, I'm like overdoing it just to show you. And then the other aspect that she mentioned to me was something called aspiration, which is on certain vowels or certain consonants, specifically K, P, and T. I don't know if you could hear it when I just said them, but you tend to have a little puff of air come out of your mouth when you say them just generally. So if you say keep, for example, there's a little puff of air that happens. And people may overdo that too as another way of emphasizing words. So you'd say keep instead of keep. And so it depends. It varies on different, videos or between different people, how much they are doing each of these things. But these are the different elements that you may see just as a way of emphasizing certain words.
Now, you linked to a few examples. Let's go ahead and listen to a couple of those. Go ahead, Jason.
In the absence of authority, we have to justify the conclusions of our theorizing somehow, and we do that by manufacturing and then defending coherence, much like what we talked about in the Pix or It Didn't Happen episode.
All right, let's go to the next example. This guy's generally a good example, but here we go.
One language that I am most fluent in, it would have to be emoji. And if you don't use emojis, you are missing out in life. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your life goal is, but girl, get with the times because I only speak emojis.
Okay, now this guy is a great example of what you're talking about, Julie, because everything about his speech is overly emphasized, everything about his appearance, his mannerisms, gestures. Now, you talked about facial expressions and hand gestures and other nonverbal cues that are also exaggerated, right?
Yeah, and actually playing that Tyler Oakley video, you've reminded me that another characteristic of it is sort of speeding up and slowing down the pace of your speech as you're going along, and that's another way of keeping people interested because, like, as you can see, he's just sitting in front of the camera talking. There's not really a ton of action happening. He's not acting. He's just talking as himself, and so I think a lot of the aspects of this are just ways to keep people interested. You move your face a lot, you move your hands a lot, you speed up, you slow down, you emphasize certain words, and that makes it more engaging when you're not really doing anything besides just talking into the camera.
So, Julie, how different is this from the way people would speak, say, in a theater setting or in any other dramatic setting? Is there something that's different in YouTube land from the rest of the performance world? And is there a formal name for what's going on here?
No, I don't think so. So I think that these are a lot of techniques that you use even just in regular speech. If you're talking to your friends and you're trying to tell a really engaging story, you might use a lot of these same tactics. I don't know specifically if this happens in theater or not. I would suspect that some of it probably does. And when I was talking to Naomi Barron, who's the linguist from American University, she mentioned that she sees these things a lot in the sort of like infotainment news shows, like Jon Stewart on The Daily Show does a lot of these things too. And it's because you're sort of presenting information, but you're trying to do it in an engaging way. I think this is just something that I noticed happening a lot on YouTube when in certain kinds of videos where people are narrating to the camera. And so I think that they maybe just picked up on things, strategies that exist in other, like you said, like performative ways of talking, and have just adopted them a lot.
And I would even go so far as to say that there's a kind of Darwinian culling process where those vloggers on YouTube who've learned to speak in a way that is very engaging and, for people with short attention spans or whatever, who are always dealing with people who are just a click away to something else, have risen to the top and have become prominent. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of very monotone vloggers on YouTube that we've never heard of because they are monotone and they fail to keep everybody's attention. Very, very interesting. It also reminds me of the sort of in the movie business in the 30s, I guess, in the 40s or whatever, they had this old-timey like language or accent or something that emerged or was required. I guess they had to learn it for the movies. It was sort of British, sort of American, and so I guess YouTube, to a certain extent, kind of sort of has its own linguistic style. Julie Beck is at theatlantic.com and on Twitter at Julie E. Beck. Julie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Right, bye-bye. Google's iOS and Android calendar apps today gained the ability to add reminders to your calendar. The reminders functionality now works across Google Inbox, Google Keep, Google Now, and so adding a reminder in one makes it show up in the rest. And Lindsey Turrentine, I love this feature. I hated Google Inbox right up to the point where I really loved it. And one of the things I love about it is the reminders functionality. And since they added reminders to Google Keep, those reminders sort of show up in both places. And I really, really like it. I think this is a great feature. And it's an example of Google sort of readdressing a problem. They have a to-do list feature in Google Calendar, which I don't think very many people used. But this reminder feature, because it's everywhere, I think people will use.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I've been using some sort of hybrid of this that is not very practical. I use one Google to-do list on the Gmail side, and then I kind of manually hack stuff into my email, but I use all these apps, and I think it's fantastic, and I'm going to start using it right now.
I'm going to make a note to myself to use it right now. All right, well, in product obituary news, Dropbox today announced that it's killing its Mailbox email app and Carousel photo management app. The company said some photo management features from Carousel will be integrated into the Dropbox app. Lindsey Turrentine, remember when Mailbox was the hottest app on iOS?
Yep, and everybody was like, I want an invite to Mailbox. Oh, how quickly things change.
And they certainly do. And what changed here is a phenomenon that happens very, very frequently. They rolled out a whole new way to do email with the slide in one direction to sort of get rid of the email, a slide in the other direction, sort of pause it and sort of procrastinate or whatever. And everybody copied those features. They were just features. And now Google Inbox has them in spades. Lots of other email packages have them. And now there's no real reason to use Mailbox, I guess, according to Dropbox. So I guess we, good riddance. But it is frustrating when a company buys a startup and then closes it. It's just like, how about just don't buy it? Just let it be out there for people who want to use it.
It happens all the time. Although, you know, the owners of that startup probably don't feel the same way you do. They probably appreciated the influx of cash at the time.
Yeah, they appreciate their new Teslas and their mansions.
Exactly.
All right, we've got some big numbers coming up in just a sec, but first I want to tell you about Ring Video Doorbell. Look, believe me, you want a Ring Video Doorbell. I love this thing. When I first heard Leo talking about the Ring Video Doorbell, I had to own one. I bought it. I installed it. Even I installed it. I'm not like really a handyman type of guy. But I installed it really easily, and the installation went flawlessly, and it was super easy to do. But I want to talk about the Ring Video Doorbell as a gift. If you want to get a gift that is guaranteed to make people happy and be a gift that keeps on giving day in and day out, get them a Ring Video Doorbell. It's just the greatest gift. Basically, if you're concerned about whether or not they're going to want to install it, it comes with all the tools. Step-by-step instructions, super simple. I mean, it's really, really easy to integrate this into your existing doorbell system. When somebody rings, first let me tell you about how this works. When somebody rings the bell, okay, the doorbell in your house rings, but the doorbell on your phone also rings. And when you can essentially answer the door from your phone. And that works if you're in the living room or on the other side of the door. And it also works if you're in France or if you're on the other side of the world somewhere. And you can talk to people and you can see them in a high-resolution, wide-angle display. You always know what's happening. Now, another way that this is triggered, if you want, it's, of course, user-optional, is you can set it up to detect motion. So when anything happens in front of your front door or in any zone that you indicate with a simple-to-use app, it'll record a video, throw it into the cloud, and you'll be able to see that anywhere at all. If somebody comes up and steals the Ring Video Doorbell with a crowbar or something off of your house, okay, well, number one, Ring will send you a free one to replace it. And number two, you have a really beautiful video to give to the police. And they will find the perp because the resolution is super high. They'll be able to easily see who done it. I really recommend the Ring Video Doorbell as a gift. It's such an easy, no-brainer gift. And of course, with their shipping, it's not too late to order this as a gift. You will absolutely get it well in time for the holidays if you order this week. So give the gift of peace of mind and convenience with the Video Doorbell. Time Magazine named one of their top 10 gadgets. In my book, this is one of the top 3 gadgets. This is one of the greatest gadgets of all time. Go to ring.com/TNT for free expedited FedEx shipping. That's ring.com/TNT. With Ring, you're always home. Big number for you today, 100,000. That's how many songs are now supported by iTunes Match and Apple Music. The old limit was 25,000, and Google Play Music's limit is 50,000, although it has to be noted that Google Play Music is free, and Apple charges either $25 a year for iTunes Match or $10 a month to use their Cloud Locker. So this is a pretty cool level, Lindsey Turrentine, although who has 100,000 songs?
Yeah, I don't know. This seems like more of a marketing thing or like, eventually this won't even matter in theory, right? When all of our music is on the cloud. But maybe they're sort of having a hard time getting real enthusiasts to sign up because those enthusiasts are just so concerned about the size. I mean, maybe it's a small number of people, but an influential number of people. That's my guess.
Yeah, and it seems to me that most of the people who would have that many songs are music pirates, but they want to get in on that lucrative music pirate business or something. All right, well, in news you can lose, researchers at Nankai University in Tianjin, China say they've developed a mind control car technology. Using brain signal reading equipment, a researcher demonstrated for the media the ability to drive a car forward, backward, stop, and both lock and unlock the doors, all by thoughts alone. Let's take a look at a video report from Reuters.
Zhang Zhao drives from the back seat, using nothing but his brain power. The Nanking University researcher co-designed a brain-reading device, which allows him to drive forward, backwards, come to a stop, and lock and unlock the vehicle without using his hands or feet. The device comprises 16 sensors that capture EEG signals from the driver's brain. A computer program selects the relevant signals and translates them, enabling control of the vehicle.
The computer.
All right, so there you have it. I mean, they're not seriously believing that everyone will drive a car through thought alone. That's not a practical method, but they are suggesting that certain types of people, maybe people with disabilities or who otherwise can't drive a car in the normal way, can combine self-driving with mind control to basically have a hybrid technology that enables people to get around no matter who they are or what their abilities are. It's probably not ideal for people with road rage. If you think about it, probably a bad idea. But it is interesting.
Terrible.
Yeah. So
that's cool. I mean, you can think of so many other applications for a similar hybrid, right? I mean, it seems to me that cars are a very attention-getting way to start this project. But let's talk about wheelchairs first. Still, like, amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I can't wait for apps that are mind control communications devices, because of course, when you have mind control communication, you have telepathy. And that would be exciting. We don't have to talk anymore. All right, we got some email from NC Ekong, a TNT fan, who said, I was listening to Thursday's TNT regarding the VTech hack exposing children's information, including their address. The concern was that someone could use a child's name and address to track down the child. But my question is, has there ever been a documented case of someone tracking a child through a data breach similar to the VTech hack? I ask because for several decades, it's been possible to get a person's home address and phone number through the phone book for free with no hacking required. Still, I've yet to hear of a case where somebody stalked a completely random child through a data breach or through readily available information such as the white pages. Most children are abducted by a person that is well known to the family, such as a family member. All of this talk about the VTech hack is just more technopanic, presenting a danger that is non-existent. And to that, that's a great point. And to that, I would have 2 points. One of them is that what's different about this is that there are photos of the children associated with the addresses. So that's different from just an address. It's possible, theoretically, for people to go through the photos and decide that they, actually be able to identify the child by their face and then track them down. But I think the bigger point here is that, yes, on the one hand, if you're dabbling in probabilities, it's unlikely that any child is going to be victimized as the result of this hack using the address and so on. It's very unlikely, fortunately. However, from a consumer point of view, parents going in and entering in all this information, putting their, allowing their child's face to be in there, putting in their address for the billing information or whatever, or for the shipping information, if they knew that this could be obtained by hackers, they probably wouldn't enter it. So I think just from a parental point of view, it's none of my business personally whether parents want to or don't want to expose their children's address on the internet. But I suspect that a lot of parents would not want to do that. So it's just I think it's more of a consciousness raising exercise than everybody freak out. This is a horrible thing that's going to happen. I agree with you. I don't think something horrible is going to happen. But having said that, I think parents would want to know this kind of information and should be aware that this sort of thing is possible. Lindsey, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, I agree with you. I am not actually worried that somebody is going to use this type of information to track down my specific child. I mean, for one thing, the amount of information here would require a really kind of random level of interest for somebody to stalk my child. However, I can imagine scenarios in which somebody steals this data and then sells it on the black market to people who really do need to protect their child from a specific person, for instance. So you just, when it comes to kids and their privacy, they're not adults yet. They can't make their own decisions. As a parent, I think it's important to be able to protect their identities, even from, unseen threats or just basic breaches of privacy, because they're not old enough to make that decision for themselves about whether or not to enter their information on a website.
And the other thing that has to be said, I think, is that the more information that the evildoers out there have, the more random things that you didn't think of they might actually do. For example, this data includes chat logs between parent and child, and there may be a lot of information in those conversations. Information like what the teacher's name is, what school the kid goes to, and so on. And this could enable social engineers to contact, they have phone numbers right there as part of the data as well. You can imagine reading through these logs, contacting the parent and saying, oh, this is your your child's teacher, history teacher or whatever, and then they would know the name, and then they say, and they could essentially use the information for social engineering, and that could be not necessarily related to attacking a child, but it could be related to some sort of, other kind of fraud. It's just a lot of information, a lot of personal information people thought was private, conversations between child and parent, photos of the kids, all that kind of stuff I don't think parents really want out there. Anyway, all right, well, we got another comment on YouTube from Abraham Ventura, who is responding to my suggestion that in order to protect kids from a hack like the VTech hack, they should teach their kids how to do hacking themselves. And he wrote, great idea. I started by teaching my 8-year-old how to jailbreak his phone. Note that jailbreaking his phone is legal. And I actually had some conversations with some various people, including my own son, who teaches children how to code for a living. And he suggested it's not really necessary to teach them how to hack. That's actually a difficult thing to do because you actually have to hack something. It'd be great if there's some product that enabled kids to simulate hacking, but he said they just need to know how to code so they understand how information works, how coding works, how software works, etc. And he also pointed out, coincidentally, that this week is the Hour of Code. So if you want to check this out, if you're a parent, go to hourofcode.com. This is a week when this effort is trying to get lots and lots of kids to actually learn how to code. It's a great website. It's a great sort of event that takes place, and you really want to check that out. And I think that we can all agree that children should learn to code as soon as they possibly can, and the more they know, the safer they'll be online because they'll understand better how it all works. Well, if you've got some commentary on any of our coverage or like to suggest other coverage, please send us email to tnt@twit.tv. Our TNT fan of the day is Jeffrey Douglas, who sent us this picture to our tnt@twit.tv email address. This picture was taken with Google Cardboard camera capture, which Google announced Thursday and which we reported on Friday. Cardboard camera pictures have sound, but only if you view them in the dedicated app, and that's why you don't hear anything other than me talking. And there is Harry McCracken from Friday's show. All right, well, show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. And use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT so we can find it. Lindsey, Turrentine, besides getting your internet working again, what are you doing today and this week?
Oh, good question. You know what we're really working on right now, and you can't see it today, but you'll see it in a few weeks.
The holidays?
We are getting ready. We're getting ready for CES. We don't even do the holidays anymore. We just do CES. I'm joking, but that's what we're thinking about. And we're writing some previews. We're getting excited. So come to CNET, check it out, find out what's going to be at CES next year.
That is great advice. And yeah, you can check out cnet.com for all of your CES needs. CES is a weird show, I think, Lindsey, and I think you would agree, because so many companies announce so many things that never see the light of day, and many of them are very, sensationalistic and get a lot of press, and then you never hear from them again. It's kind of like a crowdsourcing site or something like that, where get all excited about these are really amazing products, and then they never ship.
Yeah, I feel like it's been getting better in the last couple of years, partially because the show has evolved to be sort of, a lot about these consumer product announcements, but also a lot about on-site meetings, right? So the focus has shifted a little bit. But, some of the sort of craziest products that we saw last year did show up, like the one that stands out in my mind that was extremely popular on CNET at the time. Actually, there were two. USB Type-C, the new Type-C version of USB, and that has material in it. And also, I think it was the twin wash washer, which I believe is LG. It might be Samsung though, and it's like a dual compartment washer that made it onto the market. So it's happening. It's starting to happen a little bit more often, I think.
Well, that's good to hear, and I look forward to your coverage, and you can look forward to our coverage as well. We're going to be covering CES. As we always do, and so check it out in both locations. Lindsey Turrentine, good luck with your internet, and thank you for co-anchoring today. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. You can subscribe to Tech News Today via RSS, of course, and you can choose another way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can also watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Elgan. Also, don't miss our other news show, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific every weekday. And that is the Tech News Today. This show is produced by Jason Cleanthus and edited by Anthony Nielsen. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.